Hello, everybody, and welcome into another draft video here at the Hockey Writers as we get closer and closer to the draft starting. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by Dayton, Reimer, and Peter Barrachini. And this one, we're going to be doing our bold predictions for the draft, and lots of stuff you can go for. We've got 6 predictions, and I'll throw in a couple or whatever if I think of a few here. But you guys kind of covered a lot of what I would be thinking. So I'll start with you, Peter. What is your first bold prediction for this draft?
And this has been sitting in the back of my mind for some time now as we get closer to the draft, and that is Aitcheson goes into the top 10. And throughout the whole entire season, as you know, I've been talking up Aitcheson quite a bit, and he has been getting a massive fan club, both with regular fans, but also within the scouting community and prospect writers themselves, where this is a guy that absolutely just lays everything out on the line physically. Like, if you're on the ice, you better keep your head up when Aitcheson is there, because he has no problem making a big time hit in the open ice along the boards. He's going to level you and make you pay for that. But aside from that, he has a lot of other great qualities. He was one of the most clutch players in the OHL, with leading in game-winning goals and overtime goals as well. So he was one of the more productive goal-scoring defenders in the OHL as well. Defensively, he's very sound. He's very aggressive in attacking puck carriers. He's got great gap control. He has a lot of qualities to his overall game. So it's not just one aspect that's standing out, but because of that intensity, because of the offensive skill set that he has, it wouldn't surprise me if a team within that top 10 says, you know what? Never mind Jackson Smith or Radim Murka. We feel like he could be the next best defender in this class. Too early to tell and say that, but I know off the air, Dayton, both of us were talking, and you said that he kind of reminds you of maybe a little bit of Dustin Byfuglien kind of thing. That is probably a really great comparison because of the fact that he's able to have a powerful shot and score goals from the point. Sets up players very well. Just absolutely levels players mid-ice. I mean, it kind of feels like that. And there's a big reason why Aitcheson has a big fan club. I'm a part of that. And this is a big reason why I feel like he could go in the top 10.
I see it. He could definitely be a guy that has a lot of attributes a lot of teams like in defensemen. And yeah, Byfuglien, that's a really good comparison for him. And we know how Byfuglien was in the NHL. Not saying Aitcheson will be able to play wing and have score like a top line winger too, but
he very
never
well
know. All right, so bit of a unicorn there. But yeah, I think definitely a possibility. All right, Dayton, from a big guy to a small guy for this one. What's your first bold prediction?
Yeah, so I went for very specific picks for our bold predictions, and my prediction is that Cameron Schmidt will fall into the 4th round. Yes, 4th round. Let's go with that. He's a very skilled player. We know that. He skates really well. He's one of the best skaters of his draft class. The Athletic put out, I believe, a top 10 list of all of the best players at certain skills, and Schmidt ranked top 3 in skating. He is an incredible skater. He has an incredible shot. He drives the play. He's got an incredible work ethic. He's 5'7". And normally that's not a big deal. Personally, I would love to take him in the 1st round. He wasn't great in the under 18s. He didn't have that really powerful game that he is known for in Vancouver. He got pushed around a little bit. He lacks that strength to fight those top guys. NHL teams noticed. He won't be a 1st round pick. I'd love to take him there. He won't be. I would take him in the 2nd. He's going to plummet though, because 5'7" is too small for a lot of NHL teams. I think he still has a great path to the NHL, especially because I think the Carolina Hurricanes are going to select him. They love the small guys. They took one of my favorites last year, Justin Poirier, who was one of the best goal scorers in the queue. I think they took him in the 5th round. I couldn't believe it. He was a late first for me. I thought his skill warranted that high of a pick. And I think Schmidt's going to fall. He's going to follow that exact pattern. 4th round, Carolina, if they've got a pick there, they're taking them.
I see it. The Hurricanes really love their smaller players, and they've been successful with them too. So it's not like they don't have a track record. And yeah, I do see him. He might even drop further than Stankoven was drafted mid-second round. He might fall further. Look at where Riley Height was drafted, almost the 3rd round. He definitely should have been drafted there. He's not as small, but is bit maybe called undersized too. Yeah, I don't know about the 4th round, but I can definitely see the 3rd round for sure. But at the same breath, I wouldn't be surprised if he does fall into the 4th round too. Canucks have picks, and I'll mention the Canucks. Everyone knows I write for the Canucks. They have a pick in every round. So as he drops and as the Canucks pick are there, maybe they'll pick him. We'll see. All right. Next up, Peter, what's your next prediction?
My next prediction is no goalie is being taken in the 1st round. And this could go either way because Joshua Ravensbergen is a consensus top goalie in this year's class. And it's very likely that he could go in the 1st round. I mean, phenomenal season, 33-13-4 for the Prince George Cougars, 901 save percentage, 3 goals against average. I mean, when you look at that, it could kind of be skewed where maybe the WHL was a very offense heavy team or very offense heavy league this year, where maybe those numbers don't really tell the full story. He does have good mobility, does have great, vision to track the puck. He's got the size. Teams love those 6'5", 6'6" type of goaltenders that take up a whole entire the net. They don't give a whole lot of openings for shooters. Ravensbergen is that guy. But as we mentioned in our previous episode, where there are a lot of surprise players that could jump up and move into the 1st round, like a Riker Lee, like a Will Horikoff, like a Vaclav Nestrasil. There are a lot of players that have surprised and had stronger second halves that I think teams may take a player as opposed to a goaltender. And Ravensbergen is probably that one player that may fall out of that 1st round. And it's the same could be said for Jack Ivankovic too, where they don't feel like he's the top goaltender, but I still really like his play. I think he's going to be a strong 2nd round selection. And his play at the U18 really solidified that. But with Ravensbergen being that top name, I still feel like maybe we won't see a goaltender this year. It's a little bit better than in years past, but this year's goaltending crop is good enough, but is it still good enough to be in the 1st round selection? Ravensbergen is the best candidate, but there are other players that had stronger second halves outside of the crease that could push him down, and teams may value that a little bit more.
Yeah, last time we were talking about this, Dayton and I, was when the last time a 1st rounder was goaltender. It was, I believe, Kosa and Wallstead, right? And that was a while ago now. That's 2 guys that were definite 1st round picks. We don't have a definite guy. Ravensbergen is probably the closest that we got, but we'll see. That could definitely be something that'll happen. All right, Dayton, what is your next bold prediction?
Next, I think a top 10 pick is going to get traded this year, specifically in a blockbuster for a roster player. Where bold predictions got to be very specific, right? And specifically, I'm looking at 3 teams. The Utah Mammoth picked 4th. I don't think the top 3 teams are making any big swings, but the Utah Mammoth have stated that they want to make some moves. They want to make a big splash at the draft here, and you can make a big splash with the 4th. They're not terribly far from competing. I think if they added some veteran players, which you could get from a 4th overall pick, they could make some noise in next season. The Nashville Predators pick next. They have multiple 1st round picks. They also weirdly underperformed after signing Steven Stamkos and a few other guys who you shouldn't be underperforming that badly. I don't think they try to build through the draft. I think they try to tweak, and they could end up moving one of their picks Fifth overall is going to get you some pretty good return. And the final one is the Philadelphia Flyers, who pick sixth. There's some great guys that they could get. That's potentially where Brady Martin could go. That's a Philadelphia Flyer if I've ever seen one. But they've also got 2 other first-round picks. Maybe they look a little bit later because this draft class is all very close, especially after you get out of those first 2 picks and the first, 7-ish picks. You're getting basically the same potential in the next 30. So if they move for someone who could help their team a little bit quicker, they also have a lot of young guys that are playing very well. Hello, Matvei Michkov.
Yeah.
How about somebody to play alongside him so that they don't potentially lose him for somebody, after they don't make any improvements because they're still waiting on their prospects. So I think there's 3 teams there that could make some noise. Specifically, out of those, I think Nashville is probably the most likely because they do have, I believe, another first round. Or they've got 2 other first rounds. I forgot about that second one. And they are in a position to do something in the season. But don't count out the Bruins, who are always they do weird things. The Kraken could make some weird choices because they are getting pretty close to competing. Buffalo Sabres, they do need more young players, but they also need players who can play. So anything would help in Buffalo.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams that could do something huge. I bet one of them does. If I have to make a pick, it's Nashville.
Yeah, there's lots of possibilities there for picks, first round picks moving on draft day or before draft day. It always seems to happen the day before, so we're not as excited on the draft floor. But we'll see if one gets picked. That's definitely a possibility for sure. All right, Peter, what is your final prediction here?
Final prediction is something that I don't want to happen, and I don't want to see it because of how good of a player that he actually is. But it kind of feels like with all the chatter after the combine and everything like that and players moving up, it kind of feels like it's heading in that direction. And that's James Hagens falling outside the top 5. Now, like I said, I've had him in my top 5 all year. Yeah, he's fallen a little bit. I still have him in my top 5 in my final rankings. Having said that, do other teams still view him as a top 5 player? Average production in the NCAA, still point per game player, still impressive as a freshman. No matter how you look at that, no matter how many points you get, is still impressive regardless. But given the names available for other teams, like we mentioned, a Brady Martin, a Caleb Desnoyers, Anton Frundell, Porter Martone, it feels like those players have a lot more upside than Hagens at this point for those respective teams or for whoever's going to be selecting. And it may feel like it may push Hagens down. Then again, when I see James Hagens, I'm thinking of a Jack Hughes type player. And Jack Hughes was selected first overall, and Hagens was kind of that potential first overall pick coming into this season. For him to fall outside of that top 5 is really a big shock. It kind of reminds me of like that Sean Couturier year where he was probably the potential first overall pick, but then he fell down to 7th. I hope I'm correct with that. Just going to do a double check and I'll follow back to that. But given that skill set, given what he potentially can do, he's going to be a very special player in the NHL. He has top 5 IQ, top 5 playmaking, top 5 drive in this draft class. For him to fall out of that is a big shock, but it's one that I'm actually prepared for to see based on everything that's happened in the last few weeks, especially after the combine. And yeah, I believe Couturier was probably one of those not consensus first overall picks, but a lot of people had him at 8 and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins went first. If I remember that year correctly, I'm probably going to have to double check and fact check a little bit more on that. But it kind of felt like Couturier was number 1, fell down to 8th. Not trying to draw comparisons between Hagens and Couturier, but that is a significant drop from 1 to 5 and even outside of that. So I don't want to see it happen because of how good of a player he is, but it may happen.
Yeah, I do remember that draft year. It was like Couturier was rated as being for sure a top 3 pick. And Nugent Hopkins, of course, was pretty much the set first overall type guy. But yeah, Couturier wasn't supposed to be falling to 8. And Hagens, I don't see him dropping that far, but definitely maybe to the Flyers at 6. That would be pretty crazy. I don't think the Flyers would think that when they're where they are. But yeah, Hagens definitely could fall into that range and beyond the top 5.
So I did find something from 2010. Couturier was ranked number 1 in Central Scouting Rankings, preliminary rankings, and that was in November. So he was ranked number 1 at one point.
Yeah, so he was there. I see it maybe a little bit. I mean, Shane Wright dropped to 4, but too, yeah. I see that could be a little bit like that. Mm-hmm. Like Wright was the consensus first overall, probably within like last week of the draft. I know all of us said it. Shane Wright's first for sure. And didn't happen. But yeah, it definitely could be something like that and him falling there. All right, Dayton, last one. What do you got for the last prediction here?
Well, I feel like I've kind of taken a negative stance in my first 2. A pick is going to get moved. A player is going to drop. Let's go for a riser. I think that the Philadelphia Flyers, whether they pick 31st or 32nd, will take a massive swing and grab Philip Ekberg.
Nice.
He is a smaller player, but like I mentioned before, Flyers have 3 first-round picks. They're going to get somebody really good if they keep their first, like a Brady Martin. That's a guy you can almost build around. He's a top 6 potential player. Their next pick, a little later on, you're getting somebody probably pretty solid. If they're picking, I think it's in the 20 range, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you get someone like Bill Zonin or Cullen Potter, or add a defenseman like Logan Hensler or Cameron Reed. There you go. You have another very strong supporting player. What don't you have? You don't have a potential, a big risk that could pay off massively. And with a late first pick, that's basically a second pick, which is, basically a third pick. They're all whatever. They're the same.
Yeah.
Might as well go for somebody who could be stolen early second day. And Philip Ekberg had a massive under 18 tournament, set the record for points. He showed a dynamism. I think that's how you say it. That word always screws me up. The joys of being slightly dyslexic. He showed a level of skill that no one was expecting. He had speed, he had hands, and he worked really, really hard at doing things. He played in the OHL this season. And people were like, yeah, he's fine, I guess. But somehow he worked his way into Dave Cameron's doghouse, didn't get the minutes. And when somebody finally gave him a chance, he showed everybody what kind of player he was. And that's a player who is with that skill level, a fringe first round pick. If the Flyers wanted to make a big swing like that, he'd be the perfect candidate.
I think you kind of answered your own question there, Dayton, about Dave Cameron being in his doghouse.
I wasn't going to say anything, but
yeah.
Yeah, and there's another potential surprise first round pick, right? That he's not really rated to be there, but could definitely, again, the recency bias, great U18s could bump him up a bit. And it wouldn't be a horrible pick. I think he's got a lot of potential. I actually, you never know. Something could be a great swing for sure. Ekberg, keep an eye on him. All right. Well, there's our bold predictions for the upcoming draft. Put some in the comments of your own, and we'll take a look and maybe talk about them on our next episode before the first. Well, we don't have many episodes left, but our next one will be our complete first round mock draft just before the actual draft. And we're going to have a few writers on here. I've got someone actually from outside the website going to come on. Hopefully he's available when we are doing it. But so keep an eye out for that. But until our next episode, we'll see you next time.